First with Niko. He and I over the past couple months have gotten a chance to get to know each other and have some good conversations. He's had a good season at Hajduk Split, and this year he's had a few injuries he's been dealing with. But I know more than anything, he's really excited to represent Canada. And this was not necessarily an easy move for him to make, given the fact that he still plays in Croatia, and there are certain pressures there to be Croatian. But I think more than anything, being Canadian resonated with him, and he just feels that part of who he is and growing up here, that this meant a lot to him. So certainly we're excited to get him involved in our team. He's played some fullback and he's played some center midfield at the professional level and at the youth levels. I think in this camp we'll look at him mostly as a midfielder and challenge him to fit into what we're doing from that perspective. And then with Steven Afrifa, he's had a great season. And I think when we evaluated watching him play and looking at the things that he was doing on the pitch and the kind of player he is and the kind of potential he has, I think he could fit into what we're doing with this current team. And we're excited to get him involved. And I had a conversation with him a couple of days ago, and he's really excited to come in to be part of the national team, to represent the country. So I think we've added two real bright additions. So that part's great. Yeah, and look, Sam hasn't had major minutes yet, but I think he's back and healthy and he's back playing again. And he and I had a couple really good conversations early on in the process. So I think he's clearly a guy that we're going to need and count on and incorporate as we move forward. So it's good to have him in camp as well. Yeah, I think he's a technical player who's very intelligent and can play different positions. I think he's a young man who has made the move to Europe to challenge himself at a young age because he believes in himself and he believes in his talent. I think that, again, his tactical flexibility, along with his aggressiveness and mobility, will be a good fit for what we're trying to establish with the national team now. And he's someone who's really excited to represent the Canadian national team, which I think in the end, when you're looking at dual nationals, this still is a really important factor, right? That the pride factor, the awareness of what it means to play for the Canadian national team, that means something. So in all ways, I think he's a perfect guy to bring into our group now, and I think he's going to enjoy it, and I think he's going to make us better. I mean, you'll have to ask him that, but I do believe that our success really ignited his interest. But I think that he also he's born in Canada, and I think he grew up in Canada, and so I think he does also recognize that that's a big part of the way he thinks about himself and the national team he wants to represent. But I think you'll have the opportunity to ask him that, and he'll be able to tell you exactly what his motivations were. Yeah, I think in general he can be a real big asset for us, and I'm really excited to get him into camp, to introduce him into a lot of the things that we're trying to establish with the team, to get him up to speed with how we're doing things, who I am, what we're trying to achieve as a team together, and I think Sam can be a real key piece for us moving forward. So, I'm going to try to use, obviously, every time we're together to evaluate and to invest in where we want the team to go. We know that the first weeks, the tournament in Copa was a real positive start for us, and I think we're all excited to continue the process. So, having Sam in camp will be a big positive for us. Yeah, well, first, I think that this has been obviously there was a lot of internal and then inside the country momentum and positivity behind our performances and results from Copa America. But I think there's two other parts of this, and that's the opportunity for the players to show their quality and in a big competition, to show that we have talent and that the talent is growing inside of Canada, inside the Canadian national team, and it's given more players the opportunity to move on to bigger situations and bigger opportunities and bigger challenges. And then the other one is that I think some of the dual nationals have recognized the fact that the team has evolved and continued to move itself forward and shown that it can be successful and compete at the highest level, which I think gets people excited of the possibility of playing for the Canadian national team. So now with that, with these opportunities comes also the challenge, and it's important that our players take on these challenges in a good way and can establish themselves with their new teams, because it doesn't benefit us unless they're getting the experience of being on the pitch week in and week out. But I'm fairly confident that most of these moves have been very beneficial for our players and will in the end pay dividends for our national team as well. And that, I think, will find a way to inspire enough dual nationals that this is the right place for them. Not just looking forward into 2026 in the next 2 years, but beyond, and that the future of the Canadian national team is going to continue to grow. I think both our center backs getting the opportunity to go play at big clubs in Marseille and in Nice. I was at the Nice match against Toulouse. So I was in the stadium and I was able to see Moyes have a really good performance. And for only being with the club for 3 or 4 days, it says a lot that they threw him on the pitch right away and invested in him as a player for them for the future. And Derek, I thought, also had a good match at Marseille and gave up a penalty early on in the first 5 minutes, and it could have been easy for it to go downhill from there. But I think he stayed strong and had a really strong performance and was a really big win. And even though he didn't play this past weekend, I think that he has potential to be a big piece of what they're going to be doing moving forward. And both are getting the opportunity to play for good coaches. So, yeah, I think both those situations are exciting for us. Yeah, in general, I think it was really valuable time for us to be together. And, we knew from the beginning that the challenges of the opponents was going to be big. And quite frankly, when I looked back at those first 5 matches, I knew that there was a probability that we could lose all 5. But I think even more important than the results was the way we went about our development process together over that time period, and how we got better and better and stronger and stronger. And one of the most positive developments in that first time we had together, was when we played against Uruguay and made some changes to the group, and some guys got an opportunity that didn't get a lot of opportunities before that. It still looked like an organized, disciplined team that understood what we wanted to achieve and how we wanted to play. So, it gives me a lot of optimism, like I've said from the beginning, but it gives me a lot of optimism, not just that, there's a group of 11, 12, 13 players that can continue to establish themselves, but that there's a broader player pool that we're developing and that we need to continue to push in order to be the ultimate team that we want to be in a couple of years. So, I said before, I knew I was going to love the team just from the discussions I had with the guys from the beginning. Getting to know them, then watching them go back to their clubs in this last stretch, seeing them push a lot of the same values and ideas and principles that we established as a team at Copa America, and seeing them continue to put it to practice with their club teams at different levels, now leads me to believe that coming back in together, that we're going to pick up even better than where we started or where we left off in the middle of July. So that'll be the emphasis when we get together, that we're really, really ready to keep pushing this thing to get better and better. First, I spoke with the people at Grasshopper about Mathieu, and I had a lot of positive things to say because I think he's a player with a big future. Then when I watched his performances in the last weeks in playing for Montreal, I thought his focus and concentration to be his best for the club was at a high level, and I thought he had some really good performances. And obviously, some different opportunities were presenting themselves. In the end, I know that he loved, he's from Montreal. He loved playing for that club. I think this move for him is a next step and a step inside Europe for him to be at a club where I think need him, and also where he can develop and have some success without, the massive pressure of a massive club, but go to a club that I still think has a really good history, a history of developing young players, a commitment to developing young players. Means that I think he can take his first step in Europe in a positive way and establish himself at that club, and then have the opportunity in a couple of years to be thinking about maybe moving on to something even bigger. So, for me, Matthew has a lot of the qualities that I like in players that play in the center of the midfield. And I think he's going to be a big part of the national team moving forward. And I think him establishing himself in Europe will only help him and us to continue to grow and develop and get better. Yeah, so I've initiated contact with Santiago. I think he was a standout player for us at the U20s. For right now, we're going to leave him with his club in Pumas and give him the opportunity to potentially take that performance and add it to the first team level of what's going on with Pumas. My sources inside Mexico have said that people in Pumas are very positive about him as a player and his future with the club. We certainly know that he has dual national opportunities, but it's clear also that he values playing for the Canadian national team, and I will certainly engage him in a way to try to let him know that we want him to be part of the future plans of what we're developing here. And I think he has a lot of qualities to fit in with what we're doing. So there'll be, we have a few windows coming up, and we'll look to use each window in a little bit different way. But I hope to have some meaningful conversations with him soon, and to definitely include him in what we're hoping to establish here in the next windows. Look, I don't want to say too much. I don't want to go too much into each individual. All I can say is that, yeah, we've had a lot of discussions lately, and we're excited about the possibilities. And I think there's a lot of positivity around the possibilities of some important players joining what we're trying to do with the Canadian national team. So I'm very aware of who Daniel is. And I think he's a player with big potential. And so, let's leave it at that for now. Yeah, so I spent the majority of this morning meeting with Andrew Oliveri, and, in coupling over the last couple of weeks with a lot of the different work of preparing this team for this window has been also assessing the game in general in the country, and certainly the youth program, the youth national team program. And there's two parts. There's one that, first of all, these teams don't get to spend enough time together. There's not enough identification that's going into the youth talent pools in this country, because we don't have enough games arranged for each of the international youth programs. And so certainly one of the best things we can do as a national team is provide more opportunities for these young players to be together, to play for the national team at the younger levels, which will then naturally lead to them understanding each other better and performing better together in these tournaments. And then the next part is educating our coaches to be aligned more with what we're trying to do and what I'm trying to do with the first team, so that there's better alignment from a philosophical and style of play perspective, so that players can integrate into what we think can make them successful. So there's a lot that needs to go into that. There's some finances that need to be raised so that we can create better infrastructure and more opportunities for our players. And then there's an investment in coaching and in clubs and in players that need to take place. So, look, I'm mostly in this position. My job, my designation is to help the first team be as successful as possible. And I know that in many ways, that's the best thing I can do for the program and for the sport in this country. But I'm very committed to trying to help build a better infrastructure, better communication lines, and certainly a better understanding as to what the game can look like and how that can benefit our players and player development across the country. So I've made a promise to a lot of people on the inside that this will be a big part of my investment in terms of time and expertise, is to try to help that aspect. So yeah, I'm excited about that, but there's a lot of work to be done. Look, I'm even meeting with some of the leaders in CPL, technical leaders in the CPL later this afternoon. And certainly part of the topic will be, how do we create better academy systems, better youth football environments? How do we continue to work to identify the right kind of talent? How do we educate them? How do we work with the coaches that are educating them? How do we do a lot of these things, right? To lay a better continue the foundation and continue to lay the groundwork for what can be successful in this country. So, and I don't want to pretend like I have all the answers or that I'm the key. I think we are the solution, and we have to create, really good and continue to create really good infrastructure for what these players need. So all of these things matter. and certainly what I look at mostly is, what does the game look like? What do the players look like? How do we challenge the coaches and the players to continue to push their level of expertise and understanding to benefit the game the most? So, again, that's why I was in Edmonton. That's why I'm here today. And we're going to continue to push that. Yeah, for me, look, for us in general, going into this window, playing against two great rivals like the US and Mexico, and also knowing that they have new coaching in situations, means that the preparation and what to expect isn't totally clear. However, I think for us as a Canadian national team, it's really important to use these opportunities as a measuring stick as to where we're at and what we think we can achieve, to continue to show ourselves that we're at the level to compete and be better than these teams. I'm excited for that part of the challenge. The rest of it, honestly, I'm squarely focused on what's necessary for our team to be successful in this moment with these opponents, and to use it the best we can. Now, there's also a benefit to us playing these matches and Panama next window, because these three teams are currently in or around where we need to be in terms of our Concacaf ranking and our FIFA ranking, which can ultimately lead to better seeding for the Nations League and opportunities for us to kind of gain a little bit of an edge in terms of what the draw can look like, and then even what the semifinals and finals can look like for us. So, it's not that these are just friendlies. There's something on the line for us, and we're going to use them that way. Not really. I mean, look, it might be once the national anthems get played and everything, it'll be I'll be singing the Canadian anthem loud again, like I have, and I'm excited for that. But no, not really. Not really. I'm focused on our team. Yeah. So look, I reached out to Sam and I told him that he had, that I watched his performances and that he's been playing well, that the roster this time around is a little bit smaller, and that we wanted to take a look at a couple of new guys, but that I'll continue to evaluate his performances and continue to evaluate how he fits into the future of the national team. But, from almost every perspective, as a person and as a player, Sam is an asset to the national team program. So I don't expect that it's the last time that we will see him with the national team. But in this moment, when I was bringing in Niko and looking at evaluating him with the group, in that position, I just felt that the balance of the squad was best like this. And like I said, I'll continue to evaluate Sam as we continue to move forward. Yeah, look, you almost have to take the last match and take it out. Like, I know the last match, it looks bad when it's 5-0. When I watched the match again, I don't think it was a 5-0 match. Like, even at 2-0, there was a big chance that they had to make it 2-1, and the game could have been very different. But obviously, you don't want your look, there's defensive midfielders I'm considering on that team. There's defenders that I'm considering on that team. And then obviously Jonathan as the goalkeeper. And obviously that's not a great thing. But I feel that Jonathan, since we were in Copa America and up until now, has had some good performances. Tom McGill, we decided to leave with MK Dons because they don't take international breaks during the FIFA windows. They continue their season in League One, and I think it's important for him to establish himself as a regular player at the first team level. And so I wanted to get to know Jonathan, and I saw him in Montreal, and I've been evaluating him, and I think it's important that we incorporate him into the national team program and evaluate how he fits for the future. Yeah, that is our goal. It is part of our motivation. I think we had a good Copa America. We don't make any assumptions that makes us better than anyone else. We've taken those performances. I think we're going to use it to continue to push us forward. Look, one of the challenges right now is getting good opponents when everybody else is sometimes playing qualifiers or playing in Nations League qualifiers and different things. The U.S., I think, has played 22 of its last 25 matches on home soil. where as a Canadian national team, even in my time, we've played 8 matches and not one on home soil, and certainly not one with a home crowd. It will be the case again that we'll play in front of a very heavy U.S. crowd and a very heavy Mexico crowd. But I think for us, we use every moment like this as a little bit of an opportunity to continue to show how mature we can be with a young team, how we can continue to develop ourselves. The fact that we've had really good opponents in every match that I've been in charge, I think is only a positive, and we're going to use it that way. I want the challenges to be big for our team, and I want the standards to be high for what we think success is. And we still have a lot to go to be the team that I ultimately want us to be. And the only way to do that is to play difficult matches. So this is perfect for us right now. We're excited. We're excited for these two. And there's a little, look, everyone has a little bit of challenge for me in this September window when you have a lot of players, specifically in the European market, because those players are just getting started with their seasons and trying to establish certain things for what the expectation is for success for their clubs. And the demands are so big, and now they need to travel back for 10 days. So look, we have to get the balance right about physically and mentally how much we push every single thing in the moment, in the window, and in the time we're together, but also make sure that we're honoring all the demands of what these players have at the moment. So we'll bring them in. We'll make sure it's a positive environment. We'll continue to push our development, and we'll be up for some big matches. And we'll probably use 2 different lineups, not totally different lineups, but we'll be looking at different players, and we'll be expecting that we perform at a high level and that there's a high level of clarity in terms of tactics and mentality and everything for what we want to be as we move forward. I'm really excited to be here, and again, continue to invest time in learning about the different teams, the structures, the coaches, the players. I was in Edmonton last week for the PDP finals, and to watch I met with the players, I met with the coaches, I watched the matches. I'm still in terms of the overall game and sport in the country. I'm still in the information gathering stage and trying to hear from as many people as possible what they need from a national team program, what they need from a national team coach, from both the men's and women's side. So that part for me has been invaluable. I've been really excited about it. I'm looking forward to the matches. I think overall, the competition this year specifically, is taken on a new element of competitive juice, and I think a positive competition. So yeah, I expect to see 2 really good matches tonight.